Finally, we made it. I'm here live with Tosha Shore, your partner in parenting boys. You guys know I've been talking about her for the last couple of weeks. She did an amazing reconnect and then a workshop. And now Tasha's Out with Aggression course is out there. It's open. It's live. This is live modules. We'll talk about all that. I'm also going to give away a set of cards as long as we are actually broadcasting. And hopefully some people will jump on and it'll work. I'm going to give away a deck of cards. So if you're watching us and you want these cards, you can, these have nothing to do with anything. All you have to do is watch us tonight to get these. You can just put, I want the cards in all caps in the comments under the live video, and then we'll choose a winner from there. So that's all you have to do, but you have to be on here watching. At the end, I'm going to give you, actually I should have waited till the end, but who cares, whatever. You're on here. If you're watching live after all we've been through, you get it, because I don't care. Whoever needs it. I had a thing for that, but that just went out the window and everything went crazy. So I wanted to bring Tosha on to talk about, she's doing this course and she does it for boys because that is her passion. But people are writing in and they want to know why. Why is it just for boys? Why not girls? And I only have a girl and she was aggressive. So I totally understand that feeling. But I also know, as the mom of just a girl, that our little boys they can be different in their responses and perhaps in their needs. And so I just wanted to see if you could clarify some of those, why you focus on boys and if there are differences that we should be aware of.
Okay. Well, first of all, Lori, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry. Can I also say you are a hand-in-hand trainer, instructor, and you also wrote a book with Patty Whiffler, who you guys know if you did my Chaos to Cooperation retreat. I have Patty's interview, been in that retreat for years and years and years. There's her book, Listen.
I like the cover.
Yes, and I love Hand in Hand and what you guys do because you really do focus on that part of being able to sit and actually listen and receive information in a way that's very special. So you can talk about that too, but I just wanted to say that about that. You have an awesome book out there and that you've been with Hand in Hand as a trainer, I guess, and an instructor for a long time now. So, but
Thank
welcome.
you.
So
Thank you, and thanks for having me. I think it might be useful for me to start out by telling a little bit of a story about myself, because that might clarify like the boy-girl thing a little bit. So I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area in California in the United States in the 70s, and I grew up pretty much with a single mom, and she and the world that I was in was very much steeped in political activism and feminism. And actually for a long time, I lived with my mom and another woman. They were not a couple, but I called her my other mother. And we were like a little family. And there was a lot of my life was very women-centered and female-centered. And there were a lot of men who came and went, probably too many men who came and went, now that I think back. But anyway, that's for another Facebook Live, or not.
That's for the other page.
That's for the other page, exactly.
Relationships. It's a big one too, though, Relationships are huge, and they are part of the family thing too, so they're important.
They totally are. But I grew up very much, a feminist and women's rights and girls' rights. And my message was like, you can be whatever you want to be and do whatever you want to do. And it was a very exciting time to be a girl and an exciting place to be a girl. Lots of opportunity and like a lot of girl power stuff. Mm-hmm. So fast forward, I went to college. I majored in women's studies. I was a women's studies major. And I got more
steeped in
totally
male, understanding and experience.
Absolutely, and way into it, and excited about it, and I'm so glad I did it. And there was so much value there, and I learned so much, and I made so many great friends, and all of that. But I fast forward again. Several years afterwards, it's now 2001, and It was shortly after September 11th, which I also have a story about, but that's neither here nor there. Parenting story, not a being there story. And I was laying on the couch and I suddenly had this thought. I was pregnant. Did I say that already? I was pregnant with my first son. It was 2001, the end of the year. And all of a sudden I had this thought, what if I have a boy? Like it stopped me in my, it never even
crossed your mind
that it might be a possibility. Like didn't even occur to me. So I called my mom. Mom, what if it's a boy? Silence on the other end of the phone. Like silence. And then she goes, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And that kind of sums it up, okay? So that's where I'm coming from. And then I have a boy, and then I have another boy, and I have another boy. I've got
three boys.
I got 3 boys. And let me tell you, I'm not going to be giving up my woman identity and my female identity and my strong identity and my feminist identity and all of those things. Those are like so part and parcel of who I am and how I move in the world. That has gone nowhere, nor is it going to go anywhere. I'm a big advocate for girls and women and all of that. But I also was faced with this dilemma, if you will, which was like a lot of the support for women that I learned about as I grew up and sort of absorbed in my schooling and whatnot, placed men as the bad guys. And there was a lot of bad stuff that many men did, for sure. But I realized when I was having these boys, lots of boys, that I was going to have to figure out another place to put these boys. They couldn't just be in like the box of bad.
Right.
Because
all this kind of message is that for them to grow up with too.
Right. Both, I don't want them growing up with that message because they're growing into these men. And 2, I love them more than anything on the planet or off the planet. Right? And they happen to be boys. Okay. But I love them. So I had to figure out how to marry all of that. And I think actually that's one of the reasons that I really came to this found hand in hand originally, because I had bottomed out, but that I was drawn to it because there was such a focus on feelings and emotional intelligence and the building of emotional intelligence. And to me, I wanted to come from a place of, hey, these are awesome people and I want to keep them awesome people. And then as I, grew into the work that I do, I was doing parent education, and then I had this epiphany one morning as I was reading the paper and having my tea. Don't worry, this was like after they were a little bit bigger when I could actually sit and have tea after they went to school. But anyway, don't worry if you're going like, oh my God, she can have tea. But anyway, so I was reading the paper and it was just full of horrible things like rapes, police brutality, terrorist stuff. I mean, and all men. And I just had this thought, like, these men, every single one of them was a sweet boy at one point. Like, what is going on here? So I'm not naive. There are huge societal problems. There are class issues that come into play. There are social issues that come into play. There's lots of stuff that comes into play. Okay, I'm not saying that if we just parent differently, then everything's going to be perfect. I'm not Pollyanna in that sense. But I did realize that I wanted to really help parents of young boys make the connection between the work that we do in our home with the way that we discipline our boys and show up for our boys and raise them and what's going on in the world, which is how my mission statement became creating a more peaceful world, one sweet boy at a time. So it's not about not for girls, not about girls. That is not why. But the reality is the world is in a pretty dark place, and we have a real opportunity to raise this next generation of men into real emotionally intelligent men who have access to their full rainbow spectrum of feelings, not just anger, which is pretty much what happens if you shut them down. Yeah. And we respond differently to boys and girls' anger, which is something else we can go into. But it's not like boys and girls are like so different, but the way that society responds to a boy and girl is very different. right? A girl at soccer practice, who gets hurt will get a pat on the back, sit on the bench. When you feel better, come back out. A boy in the soccer practice who gets hurt and is upset will get threatened with not being able to play the next game if he doesn't buck up and get back out on the field.
Yeah.
And that's just reality.
Absolutely. As a former classroom teacher, I can tell you that watching little boys get called out for their behaviors, where little girls can do the same thing and not be treated, it's absolutely happening, and it's absolutely unfair. You touched on a couple of things that really, I just have chills and tears at the same time, because it really is about how we treat them from the very beginning.
Yeah.
And what attention we give to their emotions and their emotional experience. And I feel like it's just something that maybe we naturally do for girls, or maybe because but I really feel like it is about these, we were talking in a class today about one of my people that's getting back in the class. She was talking about psychosocial constructs and healing through those, and just the belief structures that get put in place. And the other thing that you brought up was what made me think of, we talk a lot about toxic masculinity right now. It's a big word, and that word kind of hurts. It feels too heavy. I don't want to put that word on our men or our boys and make them think that they're living in, but because whatever they were raised in, I just don't like that word. I want to shift that into something different. Because why is masculinity toxic?
Right. And it's not. That's I think where people go wrong. It's not that masculinity is toxic, but that's how that term is interpreted. It's that there is some masculinity that is toxic. There are other things that are toxic also.
But they focus they make it like the whole of, I feel like, the whole of men or boys. And I don't want our boys to be afraid to be who they are, because they're afraid that might be seen as this word that's kind of a buzzword, right? I feel like that's just a buzzword in society right now. And I'm not saying that there's not challenges, but so how do we do this? And how do we keep our boys, how do we keep their sweetness? How do we make sure that they don't, and I have very personal experience with men who have lost that sense, who have lost because they were treated so harshly.
Yes.
And they built up walls and have challenges, emotional challenges that are intense, and that it seeps into every relationship that they have. This was a step parent of mine, but it was, and I can look back and say, I know that there was this sweet little boy there before. Where did it go wrong? Where did the little boy become so hardened that it became toxic to his family and the world, his world? But where is that shift? How do we keep that intact? How do we keep their, or obviously you can't give me all of that, but how do we get in touch with their feelings? Because that's why you have your amazing course that you walk people through step by step. You really outline, that process. But just to give us a tidbit, how do we talk to boys about their feelings?
Well, it's interesting that you rephrased it that way. So I actually wouldn't put my focus on talking to my boys about their feelings. In fact, some boys, just like some girls, want to talk about their feelings, and some really don't want to talk about them that much, or as much as we want to talk about them. Right? It's kind of like, you think it's like at the end of the day, they come home from school and you're like, what happened? And they're just like,
tell me about your day. How was it? How do you feel? Did anything happen? You have all these interrogation of your emotional responses of the day, which can make them probably shut down a bit.
Exactly. So it was interesting, I did this experiment recently because I noticed that I was doing that. So I just decided that I was going to do something different. When they walked in, I was just going to say, welcome home. And then I was going to shut up and not say anything until they said something. And guess what? I suddenly started getting a lot more information. So the answer to your question is actually to talk less and to listen way, way more. And to notice that when behaviors like aggression pop up, that's a call for help. That's a call for, I need an adult to help me figure out, how to move through this. Not I need an adult to help me figure out why this is happening. We waste an awful lot of time trying to figure out the whys of everything, especially those of us who have lots of degrees in things. We like to be like, I wonder why that's happening, and why that's happening. But you could end up like with aggression in your face, and you could end up reading like 400 books and listening to 12,000 podcasts and like still have your boy running around hitting.
Right. Trying to analyze it and overanalyze
Exactly.
it. Still
I
not
think to let go of the why so much and just to notice, okay, this is a call for help, and start asking, what do I need to do to be able to show up differently? What are some strategies that I can use to be there for him when he is calling for help in this way? How do boys maintain their ability to access all those feelings? By us taking them seriously when they're young. And what I mean by that is by taking their feelings seriously. So even if he falls off his bike and he's like hysterical and it's just like a little scrape, or something, you're just like, okay, whatever, like you're not even that hurt, right? Instead of doing that, to not judge, but to realize, okay, for whatever reason, which again, we may never know, this is a huge ordeal for this child right now. Let me just be there with that. Let me not try to convince him that it's not that big of a deal, that actually it's just a scraped knee, that he should just buck up and get on with life and quit, perseverating on whatever nothingness this is about. And for sure, not to be like, don't cry and don't whatever, all the things that we say, especially to boys. So by not doing those things, by just staying and listening, we are letting them know that feelings are good and that feelings are okay. So that is one big, huge thing. Another big thing that I think is important to do for our boys is to model asking for help. So one of the things that happens with boys as they grow into men is that they get this message that they need to figure everything out on their own or they are weak. And that is a horrible message.
And doesn't really leave them with a lot of opportunity to change their situation, because they're either like,
no. And in fact, I would argue that it leads to all sorts of addictions of various kinds. And this is true, for women too. But like, I see we have an incredible epidemic of addiction to pornography, for example. And there are also all sorts, alcohol, drugs, all these things. There are many, many men in particular who are struggling with loneliness and sitting sort of, in the soup of feelings and having no idea how to deal. But if when they're little, and so they try to, then I try to tamp those feelings down with all of these things, right? So this is this opportunity we have with our sweet little boys here is like, how do we show them that it's good to ask for help, right? I want my boy to come to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this right now. Like, can I see a therapist, or can I talk to somebody about this? And I can say, yes, thank you for asking for help and letting me know you're struggling. Let's absolutely find somebody. We want to show them that there are lots of... Sorry?
I'm sorry. No, but you had to normalize that feeling first for them to be able to then do that.
Right. And we, even especially like with aggression or issues like this that scare us as parents, we tend to isolate ourselves, right? Because we're embarrassed to tell anybody that our kid is calling us, a blank, fill in worst word you can think of, or trying to punch us or bites us or whatever. And we get scared and we stop setting limits and we try to like tiptoe around, and he ends up running the family, and it's, it just turns into a big mess. We're scared to say that out loud. Okay. We need to ask for help. We need help getting through this. It's totally get throughable, but that's modeling asking for help, because then you're going to start reconnecting with that guy, right? You're going to have this sweet boy who you get to learn how to connect with. And the more he feels connected, the more those aggressive behaviors are going to fall by the wayside. And he's going to notice, oh, mom got help, dad got help. Like, things are starting to be different. Like, kids will often ask, like, what are you doing? Like, when you start doing something different, why are you doing that?
Yes, right. and they like things to stay. I mean, they like when things are predictable, but change, and change can be uncomfortable sometimes. So it's like, but it's good. What you said, two really interesting things that I wanted to ask you about. One,
that's it. All of that, only two interesting things.
Well, I'm trying to look at people's questions and I want to write down. So I really can only hold those two. But you said amazing things. No, but these are really important. So you said we don't have to know you said leave behind the why, because you may never even know that, and you don't need to. So we don't need to know necessarily. I feel like when we tell parents that we want to look underneath the behavior, they sometimes think they have to figure it all out, like what's motivating and what the exact feeling and it's like, no, you just need to listen sometimes, like not try to figure it all out.
Right, and the irony is the more you do that, the more you use tools to connect, spend one-on-one time with that child, do like I did and stop like drilling, but listen instead and just welcome home and listen and see what happens. Actually, the more information you end up getting. Yeah. That's the irony of it, right?
So we don't need to try to get our boys to talk about their feelings.
No.
They will actually offer us information if we're just there and present and sort of leaving this open opportunity or space to connect, or that we show that we're interested in.
Right. Well, they're like anybody else, right? Like, who wants to interact with somebody who's being annoying and bugging them about like asking them a gazillion questions or whatever?
I'm like my teenager. It's exactly what she says. You're so annoying. Why are you asking me so many questions?
Exactly. I mean, and they're just like everybody else. They will divulge information and share when they feel seen, loved, accepted for who they are. So the goal should be, how can I let my sweet boy know that I see him, that I love him, that I accept him as he is, if he, gets sent to the principal's office or if he doesn't, if he, clocks his sister or he doesn't. That love doesn't alter. He needs to know that there's a difference between love and that's always there, no matter his behaviors, and that we're going to help him through the behaviors that don't work. So we tend to conflate like, quote unquote, bad behavior with bad person. And it's very hard for a young person, boy or girl, right, to differentiate. Like they don't differentiate it between my behavior is bad and I'm bad.
Right.
So we need to do that so that we can show up differently.
And boys especially are even getting, when you think about that message, you're not even saying it directly. You may be talking about behavior is, your behavior is unacceptable, but they're hearing I'm unacceptable, especially when they're younger, I think.
Right, which is back to the talking thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is another thing that another way that the talking doesn't necessarily help. And so instead, I teach parents to come in playfully, to use play, to bring limits in a loving way. So it's not that we just let the behavior go and we let them walk all over us. That is not what I'm saying at all, just to clarify.
Yeah. I figure that is everybody in my page at least knows, because I come in with that. I'm like, this is not about being permissive, people. We know that. We are setting limits. Yeah. We're coming in and we're doing it with play or with a light heart sometimes even, because something that's really heavy that feels really scary for our boys, if we come in and we're like, what have you done, or what were you thinking, that makes it even heavier. But if we come in, and not saying it's lighthearted, but if we come in with that curiosity for them,
that's right,
but not that interrogation about like, what are you feeling or what are you thinking or what are you doing. Just the other thing that you said that I thought was really important that I don't know that we always think about is you said we have to model asking for help. And I think so many parents, including myself, and my daughter will stop me and be like, did you have to make that a lesson? Because sometimes I'm like, we're talking? I'll give you a lesson. Great, this is a great time to give you a lesson. What can I teach you about? Oh, you just told me a feeling? Oh, let me share this lesson about your feelings. I'm embarrassed to say. But that's what I do. I get so excited that she's even chatting with me.
Right.
And I don't but asking for, so she doesn't want me to talk, right? So, but asking for help. I don't ask for help because I feel like I'm the helper. Like I'm always the one, I feel like I'm supposed to be the helper.
Right.
But I got to step back and remember that modeling that is going to be a greater lesson for her than teaching her how she should advocate for herself or what she should do when people are bullying her or all this other stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, what do you remember about anything your parents ever said to you? Hardly anything at all, right?
Right.
But you certainly remember what they did.
I did. Yeah.
You certainly remember what they did. So, did they take the weekend away because they needed a break? Did they, was it just normal for mom to go out once in a while with her girlfriends? Like, great. That's a modeling taking care of yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Was it, whatever it was, how did, when I got angry, I remember, I was an angry little girl for a long period of time after my parents got divorced. And I was lucky enough to have a mom who could stay in there with me when I was, aggressive and angry and all of those things. And that's what I remember. I have no idea what she said or if she said anything. I have no idea if she said anything or what she said, but I definitely have pictures in my mind of the scenario as it played out. And I definitely remember screaming to leave me alone and go away, and remember feeling like, please don't go, please don't go, please don't leave me. All at the same time. That I have a visceral memory of. But what she said, I have no idea.
But you do remember her being there, that's the important part. You
That's
don't
right.
remember the exact exchange, but that comfort or her presence, you remember. I just want to look. We totally have some people watching. I'm so excited, and I haven't acknowledged any of them because we've been chatting after our.
Oh, good. I love people. Where are they?
I wanted to say hi to Jackie and Graham and Ariel and Kat is watching, and they're all. Someone's saying good morning, so they're totally in Australia.
Somewhere in the morning, yeah.
Oh yes, Sydney, Australia is where Kat's from, and Ariel's also watching from somewhere down under, I bet. And Katie is watching, and Deborah and Rosie, and what is Katie saying? Katie's saying these sessions have been so educational. Thank you for introducing yet another incredible resource in Tosha. So yay, thank you for helping my people. Katie's been I know she has, I think she just has one son, but definitely was excited when I posted about this. She was one of the first people that I know was signing up to watch your stuff. And Hunter is here watching, or at least they all were. Some people are jumping off. If you guys have questions for Tosha, I think, what time are we on? How long? We should probably start to wrap up because we started a little late, but we said we'd go a half an hour. What time do you have to?
I can stay on another 5-7 minutes.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Then we can have you for this. So if you guys have a question that you want to ask, please feel free to post it and I will ask. But I wanted to ask you, Tosha, about, you said there are some mistakes that parents make when they try to address aggression. Can you name a couple of those mistakes? I know we don't have time to maybe go through all 5, but can you name 2 for us?
Yeah.
That are really big, what we do when we're trying to address the aggression that maybe makes it worse?
Yeah, we've touched on some of them, in different words, but one thing that I would say, and I'm looking at my notes because I was talking about this earlier, I'm going to see which ones we maybe haven't touched on. Talking too much was one that I think we've touched on, and isolating the child we kind of touched on as well. So some of the others, I think I like, and we also talked kind of about, I think, hoping that not hoping that it's going to go away on its own. Did we talk about that?
Not hoping that it's going to go? No, I don't think we touched on that one. We talked about not needing to know what the, yeah, you did. You were saying, yeah, you did kind of, but not really.
Yeah, well,
clarify that.
All I want to say about, all I want to say about that is if you're seeing a pattern of aggression, if your boy is acting aggressively over and over again, it's not once he caught his sister, but this is a pattern of behavior, then I really want to encourage you to model for your children and get the help that you need, because it's totally work throughable, but you got to get the help to do it. So, and that leads to me one of my other points, the mistake that people make, which is that we isolate ourselves. And we talked about that too, right? We're too embarrassed to say what's going on, which is why like a group course, like Out with Aggression is so great because you have the digital piece that you can go over by yourself, but then you also have, these 10 coaching calls with me and a group of other people. So you can see that you're not alone. And when you see that, then you start to go like, oh, well, maybe this isn't my fault actually, because a lot of the people are struggling with these things. So then we can start asking the real useful questions like, what can I do? So those are a couple of things. And maybe one more.
Yes, tell us.
One more is that one thing that parents often do is that they take away like connecting activities as a punishment for some sort of aggression. In other words, like he spits on his brother or something, and you've said, well, if you spit on your brother, then we are not going to go have our picnic in the park. We are not going to go to the park. And as tempting as that is to do, and I know it's tempting to do, it actually doesn't work. It's not going to help the aggression stop, because connection and more of connection is what's going to help him feel seen and heard and felt such that he can shift behaviors. So we want more of those connecting times. We want more of that fun time at the park, not less. So you're pretty much shooting yourself in the foot by punishing in that way.
If you don't, I was going to say that I would be like, you're getting 2 picnics in the park.
Right. Exactly.
Connection is like the remedy that you actually need.
Well, that's kind of funny, actually. I mean, that's a good way to approach playfully, right? So, did you just spit on your brother? That's it. We are not just going to the park today. We are going tomorrow as well. I mean, that'll stop him in his tracks.
Right? Just, and I feel like, and that's a way even to look at, for older boys, I think we can look at grounding in that way, because people want to like ground their children. I was grounded for my entire life.
My kids came home. We were living in another country for 3 years. We came back when they were like last year. So they were what? I don't know, 10, 12, no, 16, 12, 14, 16, something like that. Anyway, they came home and they're like, so-and-so is grounded. They're like, what's grounded?
Me.
They're like, what's grounded? I'm like, grounded. Oh yeah, you have no idea what grounded is. Let me tell you. Because I had a friend who was grounded all the time growing up, a girl, and I was the only one allowed over. Even though she was grounded, I got to go over.
You got the special permission.
I did.
I was definitely grounded my entire life. I know that one. And it didn't work. It didn't do anything at all. Thoughts on giving consequences at home for behaviors at school if school is already giving consequences? Well, we don't really like consequences so much in terms of punitive, right? We're not talking, I don't believe you do. Yeah, this is no punishment. So I would say our thoughts are, don't give them. The consequences could be, that's what I was getting at, the grounding. Keeping children at home. It's like, you're not going out to see your friends. I would make that, a way we can turn that from punitive to non-punitive is just what you're saying. You got to make it connection time. We need to bring them closer. And so we don't have to make it, I'm keeping you away from your friends, but I think that we need to spend more time as a family together.
Right. I mean, the problem is we're kind of look at the whole thing backwards. We look at like, okay, if you behave well, quote unquote, well, then you get my love and my time and my connection and all the fun stuff. And if you don't, then you don't. But the reality is behaviors will actually change and life will be so much more fun if you flip that around and pour that in. It's like you get that no matter what, and then the behaviors get better.
Exactly.
So we got to flip that whole thing on its head, because the other way it just doesn't work. And it also just, something we haven't touched on is that it doesn't feel good as a parent. To that parent who just wrote in, do you want to give him a consequence when he gets home after he gets in trouble at school? Like, how does that feel in your heart? How does that feel to you? Like, do you want to do that? Or do you feel like you should do that? Like, that's what society or somebody is expecting. Because I think if we really tune into ourselves, we really don't want to do that. We don't want to punish. And, consequences essentially assume malintent, right? You did this, and so I'm going to punish you. But I like to work with kids from the perspective of they're doing their best all the time. And if we choose to adopt that belief, which I highly encourage every single one of you to do, even if you think I'm totally crazy, but if we assume that our child is doing the best that he can at every moment, and the behavior is crap, then we then start to ask the right questions. What can we do to help him show up better? If he's getting in trouble at school, what's going on there? If he's getting in trouble at home, what's going on there? How can we support him to be able to behave differently? Not what do we do to him after he's behaved that way? Because all that's going to do is shove him into that cycle of I'm bad, I'm the bad kid, I don't care if I go to the principal's office. I mean, it just backfires. Behavior won't get better.
And they're already getting that at school, because that's all schools are typically, like she's saying, school consequences are always isolating. So he's already getting excluded. So he needs to be brought back in and say, you don't deserve to be excluded. I mean, it's bring them back into our circle of love and arms and hold them when they're having their challenges. And not
and school is a whole nother thing that we're not going to get into here.
We obviously don't.
Isolation is never a good thing, school or no school, but we can't get into all that right now.
Yeah, schools are making things absolutely worse. You guys, Tosha Shore, your partner in parenting boys, she is amazing. Thank you so much. I just want to say that you guys know that she's got her Out with Aggression course. Here's the thing. If you want to make changes, it's so difficult, but it's so much easier with a community, with support. And so that's why I have joined with you to partner up. You're offering your course, and anyone who signs up with you through me also gets my course. So actually a couple of my courses. You'll get my Peaceful Solutions for Parents and Kids course. You'll get Tasha's course, Out with Aggression, but she's going to walk you through it. There's 10 live modules, right, Tasha? 10?
There are five modules. That's the digital part, and those are yours forever. But then,
right.
Yeah, from December 30th, we'll take next week off. We're going to start the Monday after the holiday week. So from the 30th of December through January 31st, Mondays and Fridays, we'll have an hour-long group coaching call where we can just really dive in and do the work. And they'll be recorded. You can submit a question ahead of time. You can watch the recordings. And then we also have a Facebook group that will be active during the course. So those two pieces are the live pieces where we can really get down and dirty and say, okay, well, what's going on in your specific situation? And you can watch me coach other people. You'll learn a lot that way too. And the rest is yours forever. All the digital pieces are yours forever to come back to as you need.
Awesome. So she's going to walk you through that piece. And then to follow it up, I want to help you implement the mind shift so that you take all those changes that you made with Tasha and you make them stick. That's what I want to help you guys do. I want you to, so that you don't walk away from there and forget everything and make all the people that come in and tell you how you should parent in the schools and all those people come in and take away all that piece that you found with her. I don't want you to forget that. So you get a year of support with me in my community, plus my Peaceful Solutions course. Join together, support our little boys, and help them grow up into the kind and caring men that I know that they are. I mean, we're all human beings. We are not, I don't believe that we're born with hate or any of these things that we learn in our defense of, trying to defend ourselves from all the icky that's out there. So if we can just create a safe space in our homes for our boys, and that's the place where they feel like they can just be safe in their emotions and have someone listen and validate that for them, we are totally going to change the world. So thank you, Tosha, for making this part of your mission, writing this fabulous book that you wrote, Listen, being a hand-in-hand trainer. I know that you train other people to go out and do this work. You guys I will post the link. I didn't post any links because we were so crazy with our technical stuff. So I'll post the link to the course underneath as soon as we jump off so that you guys can find it there. Post your questions. And of course, if you stayed on until the end and you want these cards, I'm giving them away just for you for being here and staying through to the end. Put down in the comments, I want the cards in all caps, and then we'll go through in about 30 minutes. I'll shut down the comments. We'll go through and we'll choose a winner and we'll post it. And you'll get these just for free, just for being here. Thank you again, you guys. I'll post also all the links to your pages so that you can find Tosha, so that you can get help from her directly.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lori, for hosting me. I really appreciate it. I love being able to share my thinking and, get a little taste of your community, be in here for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I hope that we can do it again soon.
I'd love that.
All right. Have a good night. All right, you guys, take care. Again, Tosha Shore, your partner in parenting boys. Go check her out. She's awesome. All right, you guys, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. I have to figure out how we shut this off now. We might be here for a second. I know how to end it, but I wanted to chat with you for a second, so I'm going to stop live stream. All right, bye, you guys.